Arise, giving all praises to the great God of the universe, affectionately known to the Moorish Americans as Allah. Allah is the author, the creator, the governor of the worlds, the almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. All praises are due to Allah. I extend the highest of honors to His holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I extend high honors to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations. I give honors to the first Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother Ranesi-El. I give honors to our Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother R. Edwards-El. I give honors to all past Grand Sheikhs and Grand Governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I extend high honors to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. These are the 5 highest principles known to man. I extend high honors to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as a constant reminder that the European nations owe you, the Moors, with compound interest. And this is also the flag of our birth. Extending high honors to noble acting Sheikh staff, noble acting Vanguard staff who keep the peace, and giving honors to you, the Ills and Bays, for without you, there is no Moorish movement. Islam, Moors? Islam. How's everyone on the holy night? Praise Allah. I want to thank everybody for their attention. I know it's, been long weeks. We all, honest working people. We work hard and, try to, try our best to provide for our families and so on and so forth. But we seek to, we seek to find extra energy, to devote to a cause to uplift our people from their fallen state. Islam, this is the reason why we gather here in the Moorish Science Temple of America, to lay the groundwork of what I would like to get into tonight. And I'm not going to burden the Moors. I'm just going to hit a few things really quick. I'm going to draw out of Moorish literature, the Moorish literature pamphlet of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And this is a compilation of essays, from the Moorish God newspaper that came out in 1928, but it would come out every Friday. And this newspaper was our legal organ, which was designed to show or give progress and direction to where the movement was going, how the prophet was steering the movement, right? In the editorial entitled "A Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations," and I'll do this in part, it says, "The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind of their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law-abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings." Now, something that jumped out to me, often when you read the prophet's work, you think you got a good handle on it, and you go back and read it, and something else will jump out at you. One of the things that jumped out at me, just this week when I was, going over this, when the prophet says, go back to the state of mind of their forefathers, right? Because you'd have to ask, like, right now, as of now, whose mind do you have now, right? Whose cause are you uplifting with your thoughts and action, your thoughts, your words, and your deeds? You see what I'm saying? Because if you're operating from the thought of your forefathers, you speak life, right? The things that you do breed life, right? You don't become destructive. You see what I'm saying? I would be able to go into your neighborhoods and see clean streets, right? I'd be able to see women respected, right? I'd be able to see whole families. The sister, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, used to say before she passed, may Allah bless her soul, she said that a woman and some children is not a family, it's a survival unit. I'll say that again. A woman and some children is not a family, it is a survival unit. A family is a mother, father, and children. Or father, mother, and children. Whatever arrangement you want to put it in. But it has those 3 elements. Because it took those 2 to bring the children into existence. And it's going to take those 2 to raise those children. Islam, Moors? But see, if you're in a state of mind of your forefathers, you would know that. Right? But clearly, we're in someone else's mind. And you'd have to ask yourself, well, how did that come to be? Right? Because I guarantee you tonight, right, you're going to go to sleep. Right? you're going to go to sleep as a particular name, whatever your individual names are. You're going to have 8 hours worth of sleep, 6. If you're like me, you get about 3 or 4. And then you'll wake up, with the same name and mind state that you had the night before. Right? See, the Jews, when they went through their Holocaust, we give honors to them for their narrative, what they say. I'm not going to remix it. I have my opinion, but prophet said general opinion offers no proof of truth. I wasn't there, right? But according to their narrative, what they say they went to the ovens and lost a particular number. They say 6 million, right? But they went in as Jews, right? And when they came out, did they come out as another people? Did they come out calling themselves colors? Did they come out just solely identifying with their religion? Or did they have a nationality? Did they go in with a nationality and come out with a nationality? Praise Allah. All right? So the point is that, and that's any group of people that go through a particular trauma, right? They go in as that, whatever that identity is, that national identity, and then they come out as that national identity. And they know that by clinging to the names and principles of their own national identity, right, that's going to offer the saving power to, make their days longer upon the earth. All right? But in our case, right, then you have to ask, who are we really, right? That some people saw, certain nations, the European nations, as the prophet says, right, saw the need to take everything from you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even know the name of your God. You see what I'm saying? And we're a spiritual people. Yeah, we're a little disgruntled with religion. You bring religion in a room, it divides the room immediately. Unless you know the universal tongue. Unless you know the universal tongue. You know what I'm saying? I have a broad span of friends that span preachers, astrologers, numerologists, Wiccans, people that practice Ifa, Freemasons, and we get along just fine. Because we understand the universal tongue. We speak the universal tongue. You see what I'm saying? So we're not approaching each other combatively. But see, I didn't have that before the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He gave me the universal tongue because he taught us in that universal tongue. Islam, right? So as y'all were demonstrating earlier when y'all were talking about Jesus, you know what I'm saying? Very controversial subject with our people. Very, right? But see, if you know the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, like he says, the Moorish Science Temple of America, he did everything according to science. And we use the example, in the Bible, it talks about Jesus teaching according to parables. You know what I'm saying? So he gives a parable about a vine and a fig tree. You see what I'm saying? Or, various different things. Or even when they talk about him walking on water, that's a parable. He wasn't literally walking on water, Mars. If you think that, you thinking David Copperfield. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not even like us. We don't even think like that, right? But when you look at the Quran, which on its cover says, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble Prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father, God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father, God Allah. But it says divinely prepared. So this wasn't just thrown together. It was put together in a specific way. If you look at the inverse cover, right on the other side of the cover, it says, know thyself and Allah. It don't just say know Allah. Because you can't know Allah unless you know yourself. Now, Allah, I could drop the great God in there if you need that. I could drop Jehovah in there if you need that. I could drop Yahweh in there if you need that name. El Elyon, whichever name you want to use, right? But if you're talking about the causeless cause and the rootless root from which all things have grown from, we're talking about the same thing. If you're talking about the creator or the source, we're talking about the same thing. So we're not set tripping on names. Islam? Okay, let's keep moving. Know thyself and Allah. And the word and, if you know parts of speech in English, and is a conjunctive, meaning that the two things before and after mentioned are connected, are joined. So by knowing thyself, you are knowing Allah. By knowing Allah, you are knowing yourself. So they're not separate, okay? It says the genealogy of Jesus. What do you see around the word Jesus? Just look at it. Quotation marks. Quotation marks, right? Why are the quotation marks there? You can very, very easily take the name Jesus out and put Buddha there, right? And I'm not saying that arbitrarily. I mean, like, literally, when you read the story that's presented to you by the prophet about what it said Jesus did, right? And if you know Buddha's works, right? How many people read the works of Buddha? Okay, so anybody familiar with the Dhammapada? Dhammapada, okay. So that's the writings that was left by his students, because like most prophets, he didn't write anything, his students did, right? Prophet Noble Drew Ali was one of the first prophets that actually put something together himself. Prophet Muhammad, he himself was just receiving, and people around him were writing. You see what I'm saying? But according to the Dhammapada, when it talks about, like, the brother acting assistant grant, she demonstrated chapter 15 in our Quran, where it talks about Jesus went to the wilderness for self-examination, right? When Buddha, or Siddhartha Gautama, right? When he got outside the city walls and looked and seen all of you got people that's, emaciated, starving, old age, bent, humped back, missing limbs, and it grieved him to his heart. Yeah. He wanted to find out what's causing this, right? So he went to the wilderness for self-examination, right? Because he wanted to find it in himself. So the same thing Jesus did was the same thing Buddha did. Yeah. Was the same thing Prophet Muhammad when he went up on the mountain in the cave. Self-examination. Confucius did the same thing. And he came back knowing, we got to honor the ancestral rights, so on and so forth. Islam? That's why Prophet Noble Ali comes and says, we honor all true and divine prophets. We don't pick one and uplift them above the others, right? Number one, that's un-Islamic. According to the Quran of Mecca, it says we honor all the prophets, right? Whether it's, Abraham and Jacob and the tribes and all of them, Moses and Jesus, right? We don't lift one above the other. We don't make a differentiation between any of them because they were all sent from Allah. Islam, boys? And to bring it up to date, when it says that the genealogy of Jesus in quotation marks, you could take Jesus' name out and put your own name. Because the same thing that's in this record here, this book, about what Jesus did, is the same thing you got to do. Even Jesus said, according to the story, it says, the works that I do, you'll do even greater. Right? So if he went to the cross and beat death, and he said, you're gonna do greater than that. Islam? So you have to look at yourself in these things, right? And see, the way our forefathers taught what you would have as religion today, right? They taught it in tears, right? You're not gonna just pick up some ancestral scrolls and read them thinking you got it, right? Because they wrote it in such a way where you might think it's one thing, but it's double speak. There's something else in there that you gotta be taught to see. You gotta be taught to live, right? Our forefathers taught a way of initiation, right? And depending on, how much you knew, you was tried on that thing to see if you really knew it, right? And if you were proficient in that particular step, which is called a degree, then I'll give you something else, right? And then I'll try you on that. The Quran of Mecca says, do you think that you would say that you have faith and not be tested? You're gonna be tried. Prophet Moses inside the Quran of Mecca was tried by one they call El-Khidr, right? And El-Khidr came to him and was like, Moses, wise man, said he had all the wisdom of ancient Egypt, right? But one of Allah's servants came to test him to see if he really was who he said he was. Islam was? And when you look at the end of that story, it's in Surah 18, ayats, right around ayat 63 or verse 63, right? But when you read the story, you'll find out that Moses failed that test, right? But when Prophet Noble Ali come back and say in our Quran, he said there's no failure for the human soul. Islam. So what you deem as failure is still a lesson. You still learn from it. You learn from it, and those who watched you so-called fail, they got a lesson from it. So nobody really lost. It's all perception. Islam, Morris? So the whole thing is going back to the state of mind of our forefathers. First of all, you got to know who your forefathers was. You got all these identities running around, right? But again, we went to sleep, that's one thing, but we woke up as something else, right? When we went to sleep, we knew that we were Moors. We knew that. And we knew that Moor was what they refer to as supra, S-U-P-R-A, supra-nationality. Meaning that because it was an empire, you have various different clans, tribes, and nations under the Moorish Empire. Okay? So what you want to talk about? You want to talk about the Akan? You want to talk about Yoruba? You talk about who? Iwe? These various different tribes that exist, that we know about in West Africa today. Well, when you look in the ancient times, they were all protected by the Moorish Empire, right? Many of them paid tribute to the Sultan of Morocco. Why? Because the Sultan's duty militarily was to keep the Europeans out of North and Northwestern Africa. And it wasn't until the empire was overthrown that the Portuguese came in and started that whole thing of them raiding the western, northwestern, and southwestern shores of Africa, right? So we were aware that we were Moors, right? And it's bigger than just knowing that you were Moors and knowing what your flag is. As the Sheikh was demonstrating, you got to know your principles that attach to that. See, as Moors, we don't do certain things. A Moor never break his word. If a Moor say he gonna do something, he has to do it. He's compelled to do it, right? There's a phrase that comes down through Islam that says, my word is my bond is my life, and I will give my life before my word shall fail. Now, we grew up in the 80s saying word is bond. We used to say, the word is bond, son. I'm from Jersey. Word is bond, because we cut the other half off. Because we don't want to understand that my bond is my life, and I would give my life up if I break my word. You see, this right here, in the ancient world, this was a contract. When you put your hand in somebody else's hand and said that you was going to do a particular thing, that was evidence or a surety that that particular act will most surely be performed, right? We didn't need a contract. We didn't need witnesses and so on and so forth, register with a court, you know what I'm saying, enforceable by. We didn't need all of that, right? But you'll notice during the time of the Torah, right, certain laws had to be handed down. Well, now you needed that. The Quran of Mecca says the same thing, right? Because it was a descent. We were falling in vibration, right, to the point where we weren't honorable no more, right? Still knew who we were, but still falling in vibration, okay? So Prophet Noble Drew Ali is the first prophet in history that ever had to come to a people that didn't know who they were or who their God was. All the previous prophets just came to a people who had strayed away from Allah's path, but they knew who they were. See? Prophet Muhammad, he came to Arabs who knew they were Arabs. The Arabians knew they were Arabians, right? Jesus came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel only, right? But they knew they were Israelites, right? But they were worshiping under Roman customs. Moses and Abraham and all these ones, they knew who they were, right? You know, their people knew who they were, right? But they just strayed away from Allah's cause. Prophet Noble Drew Ali had a dual task, right? Because he came to a people who are, this is different, right? And you got to know that all prophets is just one spirit that keeps jumping bodies, right? So as each time a prophet incarnates, right, it bears the knowledge of the previous prophet. Which, if you read their message, you'll see a continuity in the message. The message doesn't conflict, right? There's a book, what about this? On the top shelf, there's a pink book right in the middle. It says Reincarnation on the spine. Can you hear me that? Gratitude. This is authored by a European, and if you're not hip to him, write him down and research him. His name is Manly P. Hall.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Okay. Well, yeah. Do you have his book?
No.
Write it down. If I'm not, I would suggest that you write it down. It's called Reincarnation: The Cycle of Necessity by Manly P. Hall. Anything by this European right here, get it, right? Because all he's doing is explaining to you your birthright, right? Now, what you'll notice, Prophet Noble Drew Ali says, what was the name of the person into whom Jesus first reincarnated? Prophet Muhammad the Conqueror. So the Prophet Noble Drew Ali in 1928 mentions the concept of reincarnation. He gives that back to you because it was something that we knew of and taught. You see what I'm saying? But because of the fall, we forgot. So now you have these ones that took bits and pieces of our forefathers' writings and put it together. Reincarnation is known in Sanskrit as samsara. S-A-M-S-A-R-A, samsara, right? When they talk about that wheel, birth, life, and death. Birth, life, and death. Just keep coming back, trying to get the lesson right. Just keep coming back, right? Many of you may have had that experience, where you hit a certain point in life and you be like, man, I've done this before. Yeah, which just French just means to see things twice. Déjà vu, right? Déjà vu in other words, I saw this before. See what I'm saying? How many of you have had conversations, and midway in the conversation, you're like, I've had this same conversation with this same person. You know what I'm saying? And you jump out of it because you don't want to look like you're crazy. You know what I'm saying? Whatever crazy is, all right? But the whole thing is that you have played these events out. You see what I'm saying? But the question is, are you going to take the time now to get it right? Or are you going to put it off for another lifetime? You still gonna keep playing and putting it off? I'll do it tomorrow. I'll get to the temple later. I'll study this later. I'll pray later. I'll meditate later, right? Because I want to go have fun, whatever fun is, right? They use the word recreation, right? Semantically, which is what? Wrecking creation, right? So you'll find it amongst people who don't know better, that which is fun to them is destructive. You know what I'm saying? Which usually, includes some form of putting something in your body that your body don't originally have. To have fun, right? And then the next morning you got to pay for it because now your body got to recalibrate. But that's fun though. Islam? But see, that's not the state of mind of our forefathers. I've had ones that say, well, I've studied Moorish history and I saw the Moors smoking hookahs. You did see that, but you saw that at the end of the empire. That's right before we fell, right? So do you really want to pick that up now? Right? That's all the activity we're doing right before we fell. And we want to pick it up again. Now you look at a hookah shop on every corner. Islam, all right? So you have to think about, what time it really is and what responsibilities that you have, right? I want to draw from another article out the Morris God newspaper. It's called Drew Ali in Time. It says, Allah has sent us a prophet and sent him in time with a holy message. which is divine. He came to let the Asiatics of America know they are of the ancient family of the Moors. His spiel was to the Asiatics first. Why? Because they have been sinners since their departure from their forefathers' religion. O sinners, why don't you hear the soul of Islam ringing in your ears? The prophet has said, if I were you, I would get ready before you are made to do so. Now come and pick up your forefathers and mothers' ancient and divine creed, which carries your national name indeed. It will entitle you to your rights, which you have been denied. Because in 1774, the light was cut off from the ancient Moors, and that is why Allah has sent to us a prophet in 1886 to prepare the light that was out. In 1925, the prophet said, I have mended the broken wires and have connected them to the higher powers. So come on, Asiatics, don't you want to go? We were marching on to Canaan. I used to think it was a city in the sky, but now I know it is here on earth. Don't you want your share? Right? And that was by Sister Heru-El-El, Morris Guide newspaper, September 28th, 1928. All right? So again, you know, our Moorish American forefathers were calling us to take our rightful place in the affairs of men. Right? Don't be greedy, but just get your fair share of the planet Earth. Right? Everybody else has their share, right? The Chinese clearly have their share, right? The Koreans have their share, right? Even our brothers and sisters of African descent and nationalities, they have their share, right? But you who were born here on these shores, what do you own? Not individually, but as a group, right? Because you forgot, because you're out of the state of mind of your forefathers, you forgot you're supposed to think as a group, right? You've never seen an individual bird flying south for the winter, right? Well, y'all in the south, that might be a bad reference. That worked in the north. But the point is that you see flocks of birds, right? You see groups of ants. You see groups of bees, hives. Islam, they say one bee travels the circumference of the planet in a day to gather honey or pollen for the hive. You know, the circumference of the planet is 24,896 miles. A bee travels that in a day, every day, for the hive, for the collective of the hive. Islam, the symbol, the emblem for being industrious is the beehive. You'll see certain orders or schools of thought use that, right? But where is your industriousness at? Where are your factories? What are you producing, right? We consume everything, but what do we produce? You see? And that comes with knowing your nationality and your divine creed, because your divine creed compels you to control your part of the earth, right? Creed, what is your statement or confession of faith, right? We say there is no God but Allah, right? So if you know that there is no God but Allah, that makes you fearless. You don't fear man. You don't fear what could be done to you, right? Your job is to instill justice in the earth, but you can't instill justice if you have your hand out as a beggar, begging from other groups. Give me a job, give me a house, gimme, right? But, you know, and the world is looking like they still ain't got it. Other groups come here, don't even speak the language and surpass you. How? Yeah, they have a little help. They get a little leg up, right? But they still have to organize as a group. They don't come as individuals and do that. They're not moving like you move and not speaking the language and surpassing you. They're coming over here moving, you know, they realize the disadvantage. We don't speak the language there. They all speak it, so we got to get together, right? We have babies that are born there. We send the baby, when the baby's born here, it's a citizen. Send the baby to school. Baby learns the language, right? So when baby gets, I've had it happen here. I had a Mexican guy come in, right across the street, they have a bus stop. You know, Mexicans own like maybe about 4 or 5 buses, tour buses, charter buses. And so they'll stop there and, you know, they pick them all up and they'll take them all like to Arizona, Mexico, all of that, right? So, you know, sometimes, you know, they'll come over here like, you know, can I use your cell phone, whatever, you know? So, you know, it was a father and a daughter came over. Father didn't speak any English. Daughter was 10. She spoke perfect. She spoke English better than I did. She translated for her father. Excuse me, my father wants to know if he can use your phone. I said, sure. I said, so I don't never just give nobody my phone. I said, well, what's the number, right? And she asked her father in Spanish, gave her the number, translated it over, gave it to me, you know, and the child was working as a translator. Not even realizing that skill set could very easily make her to be a diplomat at the UN, because she's doing translation work, right? But what skill sets do we give our children, right? We let them just slide through life, because we like to make their paths easier, not realizing that it's adversity that makes you strong, right? We don't put our children through the things that we went through when we were younger. Oh, I don't want them to have to go through that. Why not? It worked out good for you. It made you strong. You work every day. Why wouldn't you want your children to do the same thing? Islam? See, our generations are supposed to get stronger, not weaker. Yes, sir.
The children are supposed to do the same thing.
Absolutely. Now, he understands that. Islam, Morris? See, this ain't no complex. See, Islam is designed to make things simple, not complex. Right? Our job is to break it down. Right? And we can take any of those complex, lofty principles that people talk about and break it down to its common denominator. Islam, Morris? I want to share with you. Islam, I'm with you, Mo. That's a grand sheik right there, Mo. I'm telling you, Mo. I'm not a prophet, but I'm just predicting if he stays in the Moorish Science Temple of America, Mo, he can be elevated to a grand sheik. I already know. You know, these ones, Muslims are born and not made. Islam, they come out the womb as Muslims, Mo. So, you know, I don't know what state y'all was in when y'all made that one, but y'all was doing something right. You know, your children start off right where you're at. Y'all know that, right? Y'all know that science? Y'all aware of that? Your children's genetics start exactly off where you're at. That's where they get the genes from, right? So if you were studying around that time and this and that, whatever, your child's genes start off to be receptive at that point. Islam? So just have that in mind, and when you're doing the farmer degree, Mo, when y'all planting them seeds, Islam? Try to keep our highest holy day. This is a demonstration called, for those taking notes, The Way of Sufi Chivalry, okay? By Ibn Hussein al-Sulami. Now let me say this, caveat emptor, which means let the buyer beware. We are not Sufis. We are not practitioners of Ifa. We are not, we're not Buddhists. We're not Confucianists. We're none of that. We are Moorish American Muslims. That's what this Moorish Science Temple of America, when you join it, you proclaim your nationality, that's what you become, a Moorish American Muslim. Moorish American because your forefathers, you are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa, thereby making you a Moorish American because you were born here, right? Muslim because your way of, your divine creed is Islam, right? Which is not a religion that you join or practice, another, it's your nature. Right? So there's a word in our forefathers' tongue called fitra, and the word fitra means it's divine. That Islam is your nature, right? Meaning all of y'all are peaceful right now. Right now you're in a state of Islam, right? Thereby making you a Muslim. It's just that simple, right? Now, what do I mean by we're not Sufis, we're not this, that, or whatever, right? What I'm saying is that people will very easily misunderstand the fact that because they'll see the universal truth that Prophet Noble Drew Ali talked about in Sufism, that thereby that makes us Sufis. No, you'll see the universal truth if you know what you're looking at in Christianity, but that don't make you a Christian. Islam, you'll see it in Freemasonry, but that don't necessarily make you a Freemason. Respect to the Masons. Islam, you know, so you have to learn how to look and see the universal truth in all things, but yet still be yourself and no one else. Islam, ain't no prophet ever came to you told you you was a Sufi. But you can find truth there, right? Which if you study what was brought to you, you'll be able to study anything on the planet Earth, right? And see the universal truth and thought in it. Islam? All right, with that being said, this is part 5 in this book, The Way of Sufi Chivalry. And what is chivalry? Yes?
Could you repeat that book title?
The Way of Sufi Chivalry. Sufi, S-U-F-I. Chivalry, C-H-I-V-A-L-R-Y, chivalry. Don't use it every day. The Way of Sufi Chivalry, and that's by Ibn, I-B-N, next word, A-L-H-U-S-A-Y-N, next word, A-L-S-U-L-A-M-I, Sulami, right? This is part 5 in that book. It says, in the name of Allah, the compassionate and merciful, I put my trust only in him. It says, trust and depend on your Lord alone in any situation, at home or abroad. It is the best guarantee. Abu Qasim Abdullah ibn Muhammad al-Damashqi advised the man who was about to go on a journey. He said, my brother, quote, do not take a traveling companion, nor befriend anyone on your journey, for Allah is sufficient as your companion. He is the one who will help you face difficulties. He is the one who will respond to every good act with a reward. He is the one who will ignore your faults and mistakes, and he will be with you at every step of the journey. It says, you should not wait for a need to be expressed before you try to satisfy it. But from circumstances and signs, you should discover needs amongst your brothers and help before being asked. Islam? If you love your brothers, right? I'm gonna take my young man right here. We're gonna break this all the way down. Young man, if you're at home, right, and you see a mess in the kitchen, You shouldn't wait for mom to wash the dishes. If you see the dishes, no one should have to tell you. You should say, you know what? There's dirty dishes. I'm going to wash the dishes because I live here. Does that make sense? Islam was? If we take that and broaden that, as adults, you see your brother in a certain state. You used to seeing the brother usually sharp, whatever, all this stuff. Then one day you see him, or next couple of days, next couple of weeks you see him, and he ain't looking as sharp. His eyes aren't as bright. Eyes look kind of yellow. His aura is kind of dim. It's your obligation to ask, brother, do you need assistance? Right? Is there anything I can do for you? You know us, what we gonna say? Nah, I'm good, I don't need nothing. Right? Pride, false pride. Nothing wrong with pride. You're supposed to be proud of certain things. False pride leads to destruction. Islam? So we have to, gain a rapport or vibe with our brothers that we can come to their lives and offer them assistance without them feeling offended. Islam or us? Islam or us?
Islam.
I'm just making sure y'all check out on me. All right? It says, move forward. It says, I'm gonna read this small poem to you real quick. It says, need I tell you of my need, or is it enough for you to see me, for me to see that you are ashamed? Because shame is a part of your character. You know what justice is because you are the branch of such a great and honorable family tree. Your ancestors are possessors of benevolence, and the generous are not held back morning or evening from serving the needs of others. Your land is fertile, is the fertile land of giving, upon which you build the house of benevolence. Upon which you build the house of benevolence. You are the sky over this domain. You race with winds to help and to honor. When the dog hides from the chill of the winter, you keep it warm in your palace. When one praises you, he need only say a word, and you know what his need is. Islam Moors? So we have to be able to identify the needs of our people. Last week I covered a word, real quick. If you loan me 5 more minutes, be patient. The word was fatua. Right, everyone, fatua. Fatua means chivalry or honor or code of conduct. Fatua is spelled F-U-T-U-W-W-A-H. It is the root word of the word mufti, which means one who enacts the chivalrous code of conduct. Right? But here it says, it is very harmful to appear in the costume of fatua and assume the other external signs of it before one has fulfilled its conditions and borne its heavy load. Meaning, before you put that fez on, right? Before you even think about putting a turban on or the garbs of your forefathers and stuff like that, you have to qualify for certain moral characteristics internally first. Because it's not the fez that makes you a Moor. The garbs don't make you Moors, right? The Shriners wear them all day long. That don't make them Moors. Islam Moors, but you have to have the character first. Like we always talk about nationality, demonstrating quality and character. All right? Moving forward, it says, it would be hypocrisy to wear the clothes that identify the followers of Fatua before carrying on one's shoulders the weight of the path. A man can carry the attributes of Fatua only after he has been tested, whether or not he can support its weight. Fatua is knowing that others can be forgiven for their misdeeds, but that you yourself are always at fault. That everyone and everything else is complete while you yourself is lacking. Fatua is showing understanding and compassion equally to what appears good and what appears bad. The highest form of Fatua is when nothing occupies you but Allah. Right? It says anyone who claims to be on this path must show 3 signs. Total loyalty without fear. Generosity without any demand or hope for praise. And the desire to give without being asked. Islam Moors? All right? So this is, if you know Prophet Noble Drew Ali and get through his works, you'll see the essence of those things, or that state of mind of your forefathers, because that's what that is. That's the state of mind of your forefathers, right? See, the Sufis and various different groups, that demonstrate this thought, looked at how our forefathers ruled through the earth. Don't ever sleep on the fact of the influence that your Moorish forefathers had on the earth. Everybody was trying to mimic how noble your forefathers were, right? So once you realize that, the things that you see, these organized groups were just pulling pieces and bits from your nationality and your customs and so on and so forth, you get to realize like, wait a minute, they're just trying to be me. So if I just be myself and no one else, right? I'll be the thing that they're trying to be, right? You don't have to try to be it because it's your nature, right? Being ignorant is you trying to be something else. Being a gangster is you trying to be something else. You ain't no gangster. Islam? We have a question? Yes, because young man. Okay, you just bear with us. We have a question?
I have a question.
Islam, for Facebook?
Yes.
Islam?
Sister Neely Bay?
Yes.
Neely Bay?
Mm-hmm.
Although we are not Sufi or Buddhist, can we still give honors to them like in our homes or through our walks of life?
Absolutely, yes. The Prophet Noble Drew on our nationality card. First of all, Islam, Sister Shatir, it says, at the bottom of your nationality card, it says, we honor all true and divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, right? But then it also says, I do hereby declare that you are a Muslim under divine laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, right? Then the last two words, I'm a citizen of the USA, Noble Drew Ali, the prophet. And that last set of words, you know, Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, shows the dispensation of time that you're in or what prophet you're under, right? So in other words, you can honor Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. You can honor him, right? And you can take the universal wisdom, you know, that he demonstrated, right, which they call sunnah, which just means tradition. So you could demonstrate the sunnah of the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. You can do that, right? But just know that that wasn't divinely prepared for you here in America, right? You can take the lofty aspects of it or the generality of it and practice it, and it will bring a certain amount of peace, but it won't solve your condition, right? You have to take the prophet that was sent to you because it was divinely prepared for you. In other words, the Arabs were real arrogant and haughty. You know what I'm saying? So the system of prayer that was brought to them, right, had them bow their forehead down to the ground because they needed to bow to something because they were too arrogant, right? Our problem here in America was we were too humble. We were forced to be humble. When European, our forefathers, and here in America, we walking down the sidewalk and a European, his age, a young man, a little boy, was walking up. The elder Asiatic would have to step off the sidewalk and bow his head. Forcibly, if not, he was killed. Those are called Jim Crow laws. Right? So we were forced to be, yes sir, no sir, fearful, and all that kind of stuff. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali says, no, when you pray, you stand up, open your eyes, and say your prayer. Islam was? Because, and then also when you're in your temple, before you say anything, you rise and be recognized and speak up while you're risen. Right? Because that's symbolically taking your place in the affairs of men by teaching you first how to be a man or how to be a woman. Right? Because that had been robbed from you. Right? See, the Arab didn't have that problem. He had another problem. They wanted sons so bad they would murder their daughters, bury them alive in the sands. So they had a different problem. That ain't your problem, right? So with us trying to be Arab-like, right, we end up picking up things that are of no use to us, right, and end up being divisive with each other, thinking that you know something because you speak a little Arabic, or you know how to wear a garb here and there. That don't make you of use to your people, right? You have to take that which was brought to you and be of use to your people. Islam was? Does that make sense? All right. So, Allah willing, that was of help to Sister Shantia. But yes, we do honor all true and divine prophets. If you want to put up a shrine in your home for Buddha, you can do it. Right? There's nothing that says we can't do that. Right? We're not caught up on none of the other stuff. If you want to have a yoga mat, do your yoga and all the types, you do your yoga. Praise Allah. All of that is our systems. But in terms of what you stand on, somebody asks you what's your nationality, you can't say Buddhist. Right? You can't say Chinese. You can't say Indian. That don't apply to you. You better stand on something that honors your forefathers, because every citizen that's here in America, all of them got what they call national descent. They all got see how we flying two flags in here? All citizens in America fly two flags, right? But all we knew was this one. And they're disenchanted with that. We can't even explain our role as entails this. Oh, I ain't no American citizen. Oh yeah, you leave the country. What do you need to leave the country? Passport, right? And on your passport it says you are a citizen of the United States of America. Islam. I ain't no citizen, but you got that stimulus check though, didn't you? That money spent pretty good, didn't it? If you got it, if you didn't owe child support, because if you did, you didn't see no parts of that check. Islam. But the reality of it is more just, it's just we gotta stop deluding ourselves and fall in, to the one that's, that was assigned over us. We can struggle with it all day long, but we're still suffering from things that we suffered from in 1928. I would venture to say, I would assert that we're worse off now in 2020 than we were in 1928 when the Prophet came, because at least we had each other then, right? So it wasn't a hard sell when the Prophet was telling people we need our own communities, because you had to, because there was segregation back then. was legally enforced that you had to stay separate from Europeans. So when the prophet said, gather and circulate your dollars, we're living amongst each other anyway, right? But now you can go to Buckhead and Alpharetta and Roswell and spend them dollars, stuff like that, strengthening their communities. Do their communities need any more strengthening? No. But you come back on your side of town, it's squalor. Islam Moors? Islam. All right. I just want to read something to you real quick of why the Prophet Noble Drew gave us this Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America. This is an article entitled Masterpiece of Religious Literature, Secrets of Other Creeds Revealed. This was in the Moorish Guide newspaper, December 15th, 1928. It says, the Prophet Noble Drew has spent many hours preparing the latest edition of the Quran, which will be a masterpiece of religious literature. To Americanize the Oriental idea of Islam involves many changes that are more or less negative to the main purpose of the Islamic religion. Such changes are carefully considered with the idea to avoid changing the complexion of the original text. The philosophy of the ancient prophets is the main initiative in the compilation of the Quran. No thoughts of propaganda into this work, as has been the case of many former religious works, such as the Bible and other books of creed. The sole purpose of this and giving in such a message to the world is to save fallen humanity. When the compiler, he didn't say author, he said compiler. Take note. When the compiler attempts to inject propaganda into a work of this kind, there arises a need to cover the true text in order to prevent a clash with the truth and ideas involved in such propaganda. Former works of this kind have either hindered or helped the nations proportionately to the adherence to the truth as the original purpose of keeping the ignorant in such a state. It is hard to resist the temptation to use this medium for gain. Hence, many of the former treaties, works of this kind have been the means to foster ideas of the unscrupulous wherein they desire to use religious influence for gain. The many secrets known to the prophet that could be used for the salvation of the nation were either left out or colored to an extent that their meaning was made void. Such is not the case with this edition of the Quran. All of the secrets of the ages known to man are put into this work. The secrets known only to the Magi are here revealed. The reading of the stars, the interpretation of marriage relationships, the understanding of the span of life, and others such as it has been kept from the Occidental world or the West are in this book boldly brought out. The Quran, Americanized as it will be, can be bought in a few weeks. It will be sent to all governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And again, that was reprinted from the Moorish Guide, Friday, December 15th, 1928. So, in other words, the prophet knew that various propaganda had crept into the book the only book that we knew, which was the Bible. Right? So people had given us that and translated it in such a way, put pictures in it to bolster their particular position over us. Right? So we needed a book that explained to us who we were and our position in the world. And that's the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam Moors? Islam. All right. So we want to take that and we want to study it and really learn what was given to us, right? So we can make a difference amongst our people in the world. Islam Moors? Islam. All right. Before I lower the meeting, this part of the message is for the members of Grand Temple number 19. So as Grand Temple 19, we have responsibilities. Headquarters has put down that, in alignment with the laws, handed down by the Prophet, that we must send in monthly reports, based on, what we've done, finance, all that type of stuff. And that monthly report has to be at headquarters by the 10th of every month. All right. So we're at the end of this month right here. What we're going to do is, for those who might be negligent on their dues and assessments, which as for members of Temple number 19, total an approximate of $55 a month. It's actually $55. It's going up $5. $55 a month. If you can get that in, see, for all members of Grand Temple 19, when the meeting lowers, go immediately to the secretary and let the secretary know when you're going to have that in, and but we're stressing that you have it in by the 5th of November. Because if you get in by the 5th, then we can get everything together, chart everything down. This is the annual finance book. I'm responsible for this book every year. I have to take it up to convention and report what we've been doing, how much finance we've collected, and what we're doing in the community, right? Because this ain't this is not an organization where we come and just talk deep every week. That's not what this is. We're about real work. And it takes finance to uplift the nation. So them blankets that the sister's talking about, right? It takes finance to purchase those blankets. When members get sick, it's ones that's present now that have found themselves in a bind. Members, all right, found themselves in a bind where they couldn't pay a car note or rent or whatever, and they came a week, no problem, right? But we like to look back at the books and see that you've contributed too, because there's somebody else who's gonna need that help. So you can't get from the well if you ain't putting nothing in it. Islam. And see, this is how other groups surpass you. They surpass you because they pool their money. right? So that I know we don't like the money conversation, but it's necessary. We have to do that. And, right, the fiscal year for the Moorish Science Temple of America is from September to August. That's how our fiscal year runs, right? But starting around our Moorish New Year, which is actually January 15th, we're going to initiate fundraising programs. So certain burdens just ain't on you to raise money. You know what I'm saying? Just to you coming out your pocket. You can go out and raise the finance. And our brother, acting assistant Grand Sheikh Brother Raphael Hakeem Bey, has put together a very masterful plan, and we're going to unveil it around the Prophet's birthright. Islam, we're working out bugs and stuff for now. So to streamline it so it'll be easy for you to run. Islam Moors? All right? So please, members of Grand Temple 19, please, and as soon as we say amen at the end of the prayer, make your way over to the secretary and let her know when you can get that 55M by the 5th. Islam? Brother man. I rise.
I rise myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to say.
Giving all praise to Allah.
Giving all praise to Allah.
And the highest honors.
And the highest honor.
The Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Islam, brother, you recognize?
Thank you for having me here today.
Oh, it's our honor. Thank you for coming.
I'm here to proclaim my nationality. When can I do that?
Well, praise Allah. So we have a system, and that system involves you've already done. You have to. We've already as you will. You've come to the temple tonight for the first time. Praise Allah. So what we do is at the end of the meeting, what you do is we have an application available. You can fill the application out, and that'll give us just your basic information and stuff. But we ask ones to attend 3 Friday meetings and 3 Sunday meetings. If for whatever reason you can't attend one or the other, let's say you work on Sunday or something like that, let the secretary know and they'll work it out. We'll work it out and just translate that over into your Friday meetings, right? Because the reason why we don't give the cards out immediately is because we want you to know what and why you're joining. We always tell people, never join something you don't know all the ins and outs about, right? So this will afford you the opportunity to ask whatever questions you can before you join. So that way, by the time you have the card in your pocket, you already know what you're called to do. All right, but you could begin the process tonight. You've already begun it by declaring your intentions. After that, we'll get the application. You fill out the application, stuff like that, and the secretary can let you know relative to dues and assessments and everything that would be on you as a member.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So, but thank you very much for that. I know that you would be a complementing aspect to our nation because the Prophet needs the best and brightest minds amongst our people to do the things that we got to do. You see, I was looking at how you were engaging in the meeting. Yeah, we need your mind here, definitely. Praise Allah. Anybody else have any comments, concerns, questions, or statements? If not, we'll go ahead and lower the meeting. Islam? 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 Islam. Islam. Moorish Science Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali founder, home office, Chicago, Illinois. A warning, March 11, 1929, a warning from the Prophet to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speech while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the Prophet or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their Prophet, and if they lose confidence in their Prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the Prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the Prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The Prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their Prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam? 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 Islam. 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 All praise are due to Allah, the highest of honors to his holy and divine Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I want to thank everybody who came out this evening for taking the time to sacrifice from a Friday night, to come and reason together. Islam. Sister Secretary passed a note to me that says that tonight, collectively, $78 was raised tonight for charity. Islam? Islam. Praise Allah. Islam Moors? Takbir! 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 Who's the greatest? Who's the greatest? Who's the greatest? Praise Allah, boys. Praise Allah. So Moors, that $78, along with other funds and dues and assessments that are taken in, will translate and enable us to be able to do mighty things for our people. Islam. And we have to take that seriously because A, freedom is not free, right? And B, you can't go to your enemy and ask him to fund your movement that's going to free you. So the money that's going to come to free you has to come from you. That's the only way you can maintain the integrity of your organization. All right? Because if you ask outsiders, they can say, yeah, that's kind of cool, but can you change this? Can you change that? Can you appoint some Europeans to your board of directors? And that's not our laws. In our laws, Europeans can't, you can come and sit amongst us, but you can't join our organization. Islam, we tell them, proclaim your nationality, because we're going to proclaim ours. Islam, everyone please rise, face the east, which is right ahead of you, and we'll close in prayer. Please hold your feet at a 45-degree angle, standing on your square. Your heels will be touching like this. Okay? Raise 5 fingers on your left hand, 2 fingers on your right, invoking the sacred presence of the 7 Elohim, who created everything that ever was, is, or evermore to be. For our visitors, please adopt a position of prayer that is comfortable for you in giving homage to our collective Creator. Please repeat after me. Allah,
Allah,
the Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
and
justice.
justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation,
and my salvation,
by night, and by day.
and by day.
Through his holy prophet,
Through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam, Moors.
حي على الصلاة